In this video, we will create together a Taboola campaign. We will start completely from scratch, and I will show you directly on my screen what to do, what's important, and you can just follow my introduction here step by step, even though if you're a beginner or already familiar with the Taboola interface. You can use this video as a template for yourself for affiliate marketing, arbitrage, e-commerce, lead gen, and everything else what you want to do with Taboola. Hi everyone, my name is Marcel Sattler. I'm the founder of Purple Black, a native advertising-only agency. What we're doing on a daily basis is we run profitable performance marketing campaigns on native advertising traffic sources like Taboola, Outbrain, Yahoo Gemini, and many, many more. But not just this. You're watching currently also the biggest and the largest channel about native ads here on YouTube. So therefore, we created here after many people reached out to us and asked for a Taboola review, we finally created this video here for you guys. And we will start completely from scratch with a new account, and I will show you on my screen how to set up a Taboola campaign and what's the important things here to get successful. So today we will talk about Taboola ads in specific, and Taboola is one of the major traffic sources for native ads out there. There are two big ones, and one of them is Taboola, the other one is Outbrain. I'm pretty sure you saw one of them or both of them already on some news pages. If you're not familiar with native ads, then feel free to check out my channel here on YouTube. It's nothing but about native, so we really go deep inside about different topics on native. So if you have no idea what's native, then definitely check out my channel first. Before we start in, just a couple of words about Taboola. With Taboola, you can run different kinds of campaigns. It doesn't matter if you're in arbitrage game, if you're an affiliate marketer, if you are in e-com or lead gen, doesn't matter. Important just is the setup like we do it here in this video is for performance. That means the goal here is to invest less and to get out more, so make it profitable. Before we dig into the topic, let me explain you a bit the account structure of Taboola. So let's hop on my screen. The first step you will need, of course, after you have the Taboola account, and remember, not a self-service account, but a network account, or at least an account with a rep, you will have to top up, or you have to top up your Taboola account. That means you have to load money on the Taboola account in order to spend that money. And this you should do the first. You see the top up account here or the credit line, whatever option you have. When you log into a Taboola backend, you see the amount here. So this is the first thing you need. Again, if you don't have a network account yet or account which you have to top up, but if you have a self-service account, reach out to Taboola or reach out to us and we can help you here, because please don't start with a self-service account. Afterwards, after you have the account and top it up with money, you have to ensure that the tracking is working. So there is a tracking tab within the Taboola backend, and here you have to set up the pixels. And so I will not explain you here how it's working, because there are a lot of resources from Taboola directly how you set up the tracking, and it depends honestly always on your goals, and not just this, but also on your infrastructure. So if you have, for example, a Shopify store, it's a completely different tracking setup than if you compare it with arbitrage, with tonic or whatever. So therefore, ensure please that the tracking is working in a proper way. And you can test it, and you should test it, and you should see that the events are firing. You can see it here with last received. There's also the Taboola Pixel Helper. It's a Chrome plugin which you can check out afterwards if the pixels are firing in a correct order. And of course, please also have in mind that the Taboola click ID must be tracked until the end of the funnel, like for example on the thank you page. And last but not least, prepare please the ads and the headlines. I would suggest here, or my recommendation here is 3 headlines and 3 images. These are 9 ads in general. And this you definitely have to prepare. I also had a video about this on my YouTube channel from the past. So please just keep in mind a few informations here. Don't be too stocky, so don't use something like I used here. And do something headlines and image or do something which is like more native, you know, do a bit of research, what's working, what you see a lot of there, and don't be too brandy or too stocky. This is what I saw from many people. They used to start with Facebook or so, and here you can be a bit more stocky. On native, you should, in general, you should be a bit more clickbaity in order to get the attention. That doesn't mean that you have like, hey, here, lose 8 pounds in 2 hours. That's not the case, but you definitely have to use another kind of language, another kind of speech here in order to get success fast. All right, before we start, it's important to understand the launching phase. And the launching phase is, you know, it's when you start a campaign in the very beginning. And here it's important to keep in mind, maybe you set up your first campaign, or maybe you set up your third, fourth, fifth campaign. It's important to understand in this launching phase, you will have a high failure rate. That's nothing crazy, that's nothing to concern about. That's completely normal, that's part of the game. We also have it. So when we start a campaign, not every campaign is very successful, even though I make it since over 10 years. And therefore it's just important to understand in the very beginning, in the start phase, in the launch phase, you will have a very high failure rate. Be aware of it, it's normal. It's just important to reduce the losses here and cutting off the ads very hardcore. We will speak a little bit more about this later. But in general, long story short, don't be afraid of failure. It's normal in the launching phase. Therefore, it's important to keep traction, keep momentum, and launching different kinds of angles, different kind of ads, different kind of campaigns. So let me discuss now a little bit more about Taboola and the Taboola theory. Like, you know, later we'll go into the practical mode, but now let me explain a little bit more about the theory because it's important to understand it in order to get also the practical part as good as possible. And pinky promise, I will go here as fast as possible because I'm pretty sure you like me and you don't like the dry theory. So first of all, it's important to watch on Taboola ads with a full funnel strategy. Let me give you a sample here. If you're in e-commerce, you have most probably a Shopify store. And here it's not enough to just have an ad and the product page on Shopify. Instead of this, you need in between a landing page. A landing page, aka advertorial, editorial, however you want to name it. This ensures more or less that you can convince a completely cold audience from the ad, thanks to the advertorial, to a buying customer. That's extremely important. And it's also important not just to have something shitty written here, and of course it's also important to split test and to A/B test different versions here. Long story short, it's important to see Taboola as a full funnel strategy with a couple of ads, with a couple of landing pages, editorials, and of course with the offer people can buy or subscribe to at the end. Afterwards, it's also important to understand how Taboola works, because Taboola is a traffic source like Facebook, like Instagram, like TikTok, whatever. And you know, every traffic source behaves a little bit differently. And on Taboola, the behavior in general with campaigns is that you can have a few very large campaigns. So you don't have a high ad fatigue issue here. You don't have to create hundreds of small campaigns with just a few euros or few USD as a daily budget. But instead of this, you can create a few good campaigns with very high budgets. When I speak about high budgets, I mean budgets from 50,000 USD to 100,000 USD per day. That's definitely doable with Taboola. So you can have one campaign with 50,000 US dollar per day, and of course also profitable. But this is definitely doable. So you don't need a bunch of different small campaigns, but instead of that, you can have also like 1 or 2 or 3 big campaigns and spend with that 50, 60, 70, 80K per day on a profitable base. Also important to understand is to separate your campaigns. So we separate campaigns by country, which is very important. So don't pack everything into one campaign. Don't pack all the tier 1 countries like US, Canada, blah, blah, blah. Don't pack everything into one campaign. So don't use Australia, USA, Canada just because they are English speaking. Don't do that. Instead of that, split the campaigns per each country. Make one campaign for the US, one for Canada, one for Australia. That's way smarter and you can scale it up easier. And there's also another reason why you should not combine different countries in one campaign, because even though when it's like a tier 1 country, there are different bids, and the bid is very important because the bid is like the price you are willing to pay for one click. And you set up the the CPC, you set up the bid manually. And if you have like different countries, an extreme sample here like US and India, you have to set up a bid, you know. If you set up the bid too high, it's crazy for India, and if you set up the bid too low, it's crazy for the US, so it's not working. Therefore, always split the campaigns per each country. And not just this, also split the campaigns for each device. The background here is again the bid, because on a desktop device you have in general a higher bid than, for example, on a smartphone. You can combine smartphones and tablets, I will show you that later on my screen, but at least separate smartphone and tablet into one campaign and desktop devices in the other campaign. It's also important to understand how many ads you should have live on every time of the day. So in the very beginning you can start with 9 ads, and when I speak about 9 ads I speak about 3 headlines and 3 images. They get combined and all together is like 9 at the end of the day, but at every given time you should have live on Taboola at least 3 to 5 ads. That's the best rhythm currently here in 2023 or now in 2023 to get the algorithm worked. So don't start with 15 or 20 or so. Honestly, just keep this in mind to have at any given time 3 to 5 ads live in your campaign in order to give the algorithm enough space to optimize in your favor. It's also important to aggressively block publishers. And you can work this with increasement or decreasement of the bid, but you can also just cut off the publisher instantly, like from 100 to 0. That's important, especially in the beginning, because you want to get the maximum bang for your buck. So therefore, honestly, just block the publishers extremely and very aggressively in order to squeeze out the best result in the very beginning. Afterwards, you can play a bit more with the bidding system within Taboola, within the Taboola interface, but in the very beginning, honestly, be very aggressive here in order to optimize your campaign fast. And Pinky Promise is the last point here for the theory. Just to mention it, you have a very long lifetime of a Taboola campaign. I mentioned it already and I spoke about ad fatigue, even though on Taboola you have like a very, very, very long lifetime of a campaign. If you compare it with TikTok, some people told me on TikTok it's almost impossible to run a video like one video with a very high span for 1 year. On Taboola it's definitely doable. So you have a very, very low ad fatigue. That means you can optimize everything properly and don't have to always create new content and so it's way easier on the long run. But of course, I agree here in the beginning it's more complicated to get everything profitable. All right, we have done the theory, now let's jump to the preparation. Finally, let's set up a campaign, log in into your Taboola account and just switch here to campaigns, and here you can just create a new campaign. And first of all, let's name the campaign. I'm used to use this template here, like I put in the date, for example, 2nd of January, then I put the country like US, the device, mobile tablet here in this case, and afterwards you can put in like a product or some general information. I put just in test name. And now you can put in the brand name. And this brand name is important. So here 2 things. This brand name will be visible in your ads. So if you have like a pre-lender, like a third party or like an off-brand pre-lender, you should definitely type in here the brand of the pre-lender. So let's say I'm in the health niche and my brand is called Marcel's knee sleeves, and my editorial page is like doctor's recommendation. I don't put in here Marcel's knee sleeves, but I put in here doctor's recommendations. Doctors XYZ, doesn't matter. Afterwards, please select the marketing objective, and here it's important that you honestly choose the right one, because this is what the Taboola algorithm is optimizing for. And in that case, we want to have online purchases. If you have lead gen, click lead gen. If you want something else, click something else. My conversion goal is account default because I set up the tracking already correctly. That means I marked my final conversions as a final conversion. Everything else like add to cart conversion, etc. is not the final conversion here. Then I can put a schedule, like a specific start or end date. And by the way, I will just tell you now the best practice, how we are used to use it. I will not explain you everything in detail. So that means it's obvious. You can see it here on the surface, like a specific start date, specific end date. I will skip this, but I will tell you something else which is important here. The specific date and hours. My personal recommendation is from 6 a.m. to something 11 or 12 a.m. You can copy this framework to all the other days. Why? Because usually there are not so many converting people at 2 or 3 a.m. in the night, but there are people like on a normal work day. Again, it depends, but in 8 of 10 cases, that's the right thing. Then just select the time zone. Please select the right time zone, which is obvious. I just select anything here, doesn't matter. Status should be active afterwards. And location, choose the location here. The country, you can include or exclude things. So for example, you can include the US. You can also just use regions if you don't want to choose the entire country here, etc. So I will just include here now United States. And here the whole country, not a region or state. So again, you can exclude here like Arizona or so if you don't have, I don't know, if you have something in mind here, if you don't want to run here. So in my case, I let it completely open and I will target the whole country. And here I want to select, or here you have to select the platform. Again, please separate desktop devices and mobile and tablet devices. In my case, I will choose mobile and tablet devices. And if you want to run on desktop, please make a separate campaign for desktop. You see, even though if I select all 3 of them, there is a warning notification. So please just use mobile and tablet in one campaign. You can, of course, also separate it, like one campaign for tablet, one for mobile. But usually to put them together like mobile and tablet is fair enough. You can use here the connection type like Wi-Fi only. It's a thing from the past. In the optimization, it makes sense. In the very beginning, I would go in completely broad here. Operating systems, also something which is more important in the optimization, because now when you start the first campaign with a completely new account, you don't know what's working and what's not working. So even though if you have some KPIs already from the past, for example, from Facebook or from TikTok, this doesn't mean that it has to be the same on native. So therefore, let it open. My personal recommendation here. Just use it in the optimization afterwards. Same for the browser. And you just can block sites or so. This is a thing which is important, not to block it here, but to have something like a block list in the background. And that's the main important reason why you should not go for a self-service account, but go for another kind of account here. By the way, again, if you need some support here, reach out to us. Reach out to me on Instagram. Or reach out to Taboola in order to get another account here, and don't use the self-service account. And afterwards, you can use the audiences. And I see many people use here the audiences because they think it's like Facebook, you know, but it's not. It's not Facebook. So you can use, or no, you should not use any audience here in the beginning. These audiences are working sometimes in the US. They're okay-ish, but they're definitely not working in other countries. And you should not start with them. You can use them afterwards if you get the first data, if you get the first KPIs, then you can use them for optimization, for optimize your results, but you should not start with them in the very beginning. Super important information. My audiences here, you will see afterwards something like custom audiences, but please let it completely broad. Very important information. Just use all the other things which you saw here, like operating system, browser, audiences. Use them afterwards in the optimization process, and I will speak a little bit more about optimization in the end of the video. So let's continue here. Click on next. Oh, of course, I skipped a very important part, which is the bidding strategy. So first of all, Taboola is asking us what we want to focus on. In my case, we want to maximize the conversion. So I want to have a minimum CPA as low as possible. CPA is cost per acquisition, so that means how much money I need to acquire one new client. You can also set a target CPA. Don't use it in the very beginning. Use it afterwards, after you received some data here. You can set up a daily budget. You can use 100 or more. I would not start with 30 or so. Honestly, start with at least 100, something between 80 and 100. And if you spend more than 250, you will get some additional push here from Taboola. You can also set some spending limits. I will not speak so much about this. Please always use here optimized and then use tracking. Here you see something like a general tracking code. We are using volume. So we have our own tracking code here. You can use here the UTM parameters which you want to add. And I spoke already a couple of times about the Taboola click ID. The Taboola click ID is something which is the unique click ID from Taboola. And you have to ensure to pass this information from the very beginning until the end of your funnel, like the thank you page. And the Taboola click ID, you don't have to add it here because it will add it automatically by Taboola on a click of an ad. So you don't have to add it here, but you can add here, of course, some UTM parameters or some parameters from your tracker. In my case, I added some important informations which I need for volume, which is our tracker here. By the way, these things like the target CPA is completely new. So if you have like an older account, it's maybe not enabled. So in that case, I will use the bit control. So why do I have this information here? Because I have an account with no pixel data inside. So that's something like my fake account. So it's not working at all, which you can see here. Therefore, I will overrule the system here and we'll start with a manual bit, which is, by the way, way too high now. Let's put something more realistic to start with. All right, then click next. And here you can use, on the ad panel, you can use the AI wizard, the variations one by one, bulk upload, RSS feed. So long story short, there's a new feature which is called AI wizard. I tested out, not convinced yet. So my personal suggestion is to start with variations. Just copy in here your landing page URL. I just use mine. By the way, it's without any tracking links or so, just put it here for some showing purposes. And here you can add the media. I prepared something. It's not best practice what I prepared, but it's okay-ish. And here down, you can prepare already your content, and I just copy in the headlines I prepared. The headlines are okay, pictures are so-so. And here it's important to have everything prepared. You know, it's if you start to prepare here your ads, you will not be as successful as when you have them prepared and do it like me now and just upload everything. So here, one important thing, please hover over the picture and click on focal point, because Taboola, of course, has different kind of placements and therefore also different kind of ratios, like a 4:3, like a 6:5, 6:9, 2:1. So you should set your focal point manually. For example, here, choose this one here. Here we'll choose the focal point more here. And here we'll choose the focal point. Here it's perfectly. All right. Here you can use the description. Please use it. And I will tell you a little bit more about the headlines and so afterwards. Here's a personal recommendation. You should have at least one headline which is under 60 words, like this one here. That means this headline is usually completely visible on all the placement from Taboola. These headlines, which have 70, for example, it may be the possibility that they are cutted, you know, that they are not completely visible on some placements. So therefore, I just have a warning. It's nothing to completely freak out, but there is a warning. And you should have at least one headline which is under 60 characters here, which I have here. Please always use a description. This can help to boost your click-through rate, and also use the CTA button. This can also help you to increase the click-through rate, which you definitely want in the very beginning. All right, now you see this, and then you can just click on submit. And okay, now nothing happened because again, it's like a fake account or not a real working account here. But now you see they're in pending review. Review usually takes 1 working day. And you also have the option to chat here on the left corner with the Taboola support. And that's it usually. So that's it. You created your first Taboola campaign. Now you should receive an email when your campaign is going live. And then you're good to go. Congratulations. You set up your first Taboola campaign. And let me discuss a bit now the topic tracking, because we all know tracking is extremely important in online marketing, because with the right tracking, you can make data-driven decisions. And data-driven decisions is the one and only KPI space you should care about. Don't think or interpret some KPIs. Always ensure first that the tracking is working, and afterwards interpret the KPIs in a correct order. My personal recommendation is always to use a tracker for Taboola ads or for native ads in general. We are using internally volume. However, there are many trackers out there. They're working all the same. We just used to use volume. So it's my personal recommendation, but feel free to use everything what's outside here in the market. I will not discuss the tracking or the tracker thing here more deeply because we will also create another video about this topic because it's a very, very deep topic. You know, you can speak just 10 minutes just about the tracker. So I will create a separate video about this very soon. But another thing is extremely important when it comes to tracking. So in order to see all the conversions in a correct order on your Taboola web interface, it's important to have the Taboola click ID in mind. And the Taboola click ID is something which Taboola adds automatically at your URL slug if somebody clicks on the ad. So somebody clicks on your ad and Taboola is adding, of course, all the UTM params in the URL, but also the Taboola click ID. You just see it if you click on an ad. It's like a cookie which gets set up on the landing page, for example. And important for you is to transpass the Taboola click ID from the ad, that's automatically, to the landing page, to the editorial, that's also automatically, but then you have to ensure that you will pass the Taboola click ID through to the, for example, again, an e-commerce setup, to the Shopify page and also to the Shopify thank you page. And it sounds now very easy, but it's sometimes a bit tricky because usually you have like a cross-domain setup. That means on the editorial you have your other domain than in your Shopify store, and also on Shopify you have for the checkout another URL if you don't have Shopify Plus. So long story short, this can be sometimes a bit tricky. Therefore, if you have some issues here, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. And we also have sometimes some workshops for tracking. So maybe there is something available, just reach out to me and let's see if we can help you. So what are the next steps? Now you have set up your first Taboola campaign. And what are the next steps now to get profitable very fast? So the next steps is the optimization. And this video here is just about to set up a Taboola campaign, but I want to give you a few informations about the optimization, which is extremely crucial in order to get successfully. So first of all, don't overthink the things here. Let the campaign run for 1 day or so, and afterwards check the campaign, check the results, and go into ads, see if the algorithm is spending more money to one ad or so. And if you see that, you can switch off the ad and give also the algorithm space for the other ads here. Afterwards, you should optimize the sites. As I mentioned already, block aggressively here. Don't work so much with the bids in the beginning. Block really aggressively here in order to get the best results. So this should be the next steps for the next couple of days. And afterwards, you should see that the campaign is moving into the right direction. However, this video is just about the setup and not about the optimization. If you're interested about the Taboola optimization video, just write it down in the comments, and who knows, if there are enough comments, maybe we'll create a video for that very soon. I hope you liked that video. If so, I would extremely appreciate if you give me a thumbs up, and of course when you subscribe to my channel, because here on YouTube we are the largest channel for native advertising. So feel free to subscribe and of course to activate the bell to receive updates when I upload a new video here on YouTube completely for free about nothing but native. Have a good one. See you next time.